Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dharam Singh, your host and your mentor, PgMP, PfMP, and sometimes PMP. And with me, this lovely lady with beautiful smile, Vincy Li.
Hi there. My name is Vincy, and it was one of Dharam's students who passed the PgMP recently. So it's a pleasure to be speaking to all of you today.
Yeah, so she gladly accepted my invite, and we'll learn a lot from her PgMP journey. And I have lots of questions for her. So she will be sharing all about her journey and lots of her experiences. So all of you are welcome, and I can see lots of familiar faces. I can't see anybody, but I can see the familiar names. So it's great to see all of you. Anyway, so as I suggested, Vince is going to talk a lot today, and I will be more like asking questions. But before we get into that, let me introduce it more about myself. Most of people knows about me, but if you don't know, my name is Dharam Singh, and I have been training PgMPs, PfMPs, PMPs not long ago, since 2009. And this is where I was preparing for my PgMP, and that time I realized that by not only reading books will help me, but if I start working in a group or start teaching other people, will help me more. Actually, that turned out to be really good because in these sessions, when I was teaching, I had to prepare myself. I had to prepare more than other people, and that helped me to grow myself. And most of people also know that Dr. Ginger Levine, she was my mentor. So she came all the way to Australia to do a class for us, and she actually encouraged me to be a teacher. So think about a person who never done a teaching, and as a very shy project manager or program manager, now suddenly going to be a teacher. So it was not an exciting journey for me to come out from my safe zone, but now I am feeling that whatever I did at the time was now has made me a better person, and now I am able to contribute to so many lives professionally. And also I am a yoga teaching. I can teach people. I've been teaching to be happy, healthier, and spiritual people as well. So thanks to the God and whoever supernatural powers around me, helping me around to keep me healthy, to keep me fit, to keep training or mentoring people. And before coming to this call, I was telling Vincy that I will be continuing as long as I'm breathing. And I'm not sure how long I'm on this planet, maybe another 40, 50 years. I don't know if that's enough for me to look after everybody, but I will try my best. So I was in Australia before coming here in United States. So when I was in Australia, I started my company called vCareProjectManagement, and with the help of vCareProjectManagement, we have contributed to many people, many professionals with their PgMP, PfMP, ITIL, Prince2, ACP, RMP, and PBA, and many other certificates. So generally, whenever there's opportunity come for PgMP, PfMP, I want to look after them. But other certificate, I have other people in other countries as well. They can look after. They are looking after the training for ITIL, Prince2, and ACP. Anyway, so this is about myself and my little company, and also I like to acknowledge that yes, we are going through a tough time, and everybody aware of that. This COVID is impacting us one way or other, physically, mentally, or some people have to go through the pain of this particular infection, and they might have lost somebody. So there are certain things we cannot do anything about, but other things we can do, which looking after ourselves, looking after our family and friends, and many people losing jobs because of this uncertain times. And we can't do much about losing job, but we can be more ready, more prepared to go back to the job market. And that's where I've been encouraging people to keep working on your skills as well as your certifications. So some people have noticed that recently I posted a post on the LinkedIn about the job market for PgMPs, especially that is covering, as I've tried to cover as many countries as I can, but that was more focused on United States. So since last year, October, PgMP growth has gone, I'm very happy with the growth. So last year it was 651 jobs, October 2019. I was very happy with that because I was in Australia. I used to see 1 or 2 jobs if I'm lucky. So that was a good number. Then I did a little more analysis about San Francisco jobs, Seattle jobs, and other jobs. So it was good. But since then, I continue to look into the LinkedIn job market. Now it is almost 500, 600 jobs added every month with PgMP mentioned in those jobs. So if you are in the United States or you're planning to come to United States in the future, this is the right time for you to get your PgMP. So the number of growth PgMP jobs are growing. So if you do a search now on LinkedIn with the PgMP mentioned, you will see around 800 jobs. And you look at the last 30 days, around 500 to 600 jobs added in the last 30 days. So it's an exciting number. And if you know, there are only 1,100 or less than 1,100 active PgMP in US, and you can do the mathematics. If you are one of the PgMP, 1,100 PgMP, 800 jobs, and think about it. It's not all the people are looking for a job all the time. Maybe let's say 100, 200 people looking for a job. You are in a really good place. So if you are still thinking of doing PgMP one day, someday, this is the right time. So with no further delays, I'd like to introduce my friend, my student, Vincy. She contacted me, I think in July, that yeah, Dharam, I want to buy one of your question bank. And I said, okay, what happened? Well, let's talk about it. Let me talk about why the question bank, and then happened. She decided to join my class, and she attended the class on 18, 19, 20th of July, and she passed the exam on 29th of July. So it's not that all the contribution from my side. She has been studying, and she will tell her story by herself. But the good thing is that she spent 5 more days and she passed the exam. Of course, we have to spend a lot of exchange a lot of email messages, WhatsApp messages overnight to explain some questions, queries coming from Vincy. Middle of night, I wake up. Oh, yeah, I have to reply. So I don't know if you remember Vincy. Middle of night.
Oh yeah, I remember a lot. I asked lots of questions. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. People asking questions. Yeah, so she's working as a program manager for a company called Jabil. I didn't know much about this company until I started talking to her last week. This is a very big company, and they are supporting lots of big companies as well, like Facebook, and Microsoft, Google, Apple. I don't know if you can tell more about that. And they are doing a lot of prototyping, and they're doing manufacturing. So she's in at right place, having a PgMP. This is an exciting time for the company as well. I think she is promoting program management and in the organization. So with no further delay, I'd like Vincy to talk about herself, and then we'll have some more questions. Vincy, over to you.
Thank you, Dharam. So hi everyone, I'm Vincy. So currently, as Dharam said, I'm working at Jabil, and Jabil is a contract manufacturing company. I've been there, almost 7 years now. So, I've had the opportunity to work in several divisions while I've been at Jabil. I worked in NPI, where we transfer products to production, and then right now I'm currently working in an R&D division. The formal name is called Manufacturing Technology and Innovation, but to the industry, I'm working in R&D. A little bit about me and background. So I originally was from Hong Kong. I immigrated when I was young here to San Jose, California. I've been here in California ever since and went to school at UC Berkeley. My mom really wanted me to be a good Chinese girl, so do the right thing, be a doctor, be a lawyer, you know, all the standard things. But I ended up doing my master's degree in project management, and I got my PMP after that. So at first I was working in TiVo, where I was doing some learning more about manufacturing and what that would actually from the OEM side. And then Jabil reached out to me and invited me to work in contract manufacturing. At that time, I was very interested in being more experienced with hardware. I love playing with my hands, and so building things. So Jabil seemed like a pretty good fit and very interesting. So yeah, 7 years. It's still interesting.
Yeah, that's good. Good. And you are based out of San Jose in California and not far away from me. So that's good, interesting thing. Okay, so tell us about your journey for PgMP, when you started and what happened, when did you application, and a little bit about that.
Sure. I've always had an interest in PgMP because doing my master's program in project management, you learn that, hey, project management, the PMP is actually like the first step inside of the PMI's certifications. At that time, the other certifications didn't exist. It was just PMP, PgMP, and PfMP. So I always was wondering, oh, what's it going to take for me to get to the next step? What's it going to take to be able to fulfill all the requirements and to keep going? So having said that, once I had enough experience to qualify for the PgMP, I decided that I wanted to go attempt the exam. So what I did was, given that I had a lot of training already for my master's degree in PMP, I took some time, maybe about a month or so, and studied for my PgMP exam. I took a different class via a different organization, I forget. And then I went and attempted the PgMP exam. It was actually very demoralizing when I took the PgMP exam the first time because I didn't pass. And in terms of the, they always have those targets and on targets or not on target. So in some of those areas, I did not make target, and I was very, very upset. And being always like a star student, I thought that there was something wrong with me, and I was just depressed for a long time. So I didn't want to tell anybody that I didn't pass my exam, and all of that emotional things going on. And it wasn't until later that, maybe about a few months later, I was thinking about it, and I just, there was always this thing in the back of my mind thinking I failed somehow, I tried for something I really wanted and I didn't get it. So I was looking for a way to figure out the ECO. There's this one particular part of the PgMP exam called the Exam Content Outline that we all know abbreviated as the ECO. There's many questions from the exam that come from the ECO. And unfortunately, the first time I took the exam, I read through the ECO really quickly, skimmed it. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be fine, no problem, and it's going to be easy. I'm not going to have to worry about it. Well, I was wrong, as a major portion of the exam did cover the ECO. So I wanted to look for some videos online to coach me to how to interpret the ECO in more depth. There's sections in the ECO that breaks down into different tasks, and the order of the tasks matter. How the tasks are worded, they matter. What comes first and what is the result of that. Even in the particles inside of the task, they also matter. And at the time, I didn't know. I thought it was just, oh, you have a general overview and you're good to go. Nope. So I found Dharam's video actually on YouTube, and Dharam mentioned it earlier. And I'm like, oh, wow, this gentleman actually explains how to break down the ECO and how to interpret it, and where does this fit in the program lifecycle or different things. And that's where I bought the Dharam study guide, and he contacted me. I think at that time it was July. It was actually in the beginning of July when I wanted to take the exam again. I had attempted the exam in March, and then in July, I scheduled myself to take the exam towards the end of July because I figured that that was enough time in between to study, and it was beginning of July when I really wanted to break down the UCO. So since then, Dharam invited me to do a crash course with him, and we did that virtually, given COVID and the constraints that we have. It was great because we went through the PgMP, and then it's been like this ever since.
Yeah. So great. Thank you for joining my program. Thank you for trusting my program. I'm glad to see that my words kept my word, or helped me to keep my words. So it was good working with you. I know lots of conversation, phone, WhatsApp, but I like to see get a number. Once you got PgMP, I can say one more PgMP. So I'm very greedy, by the way, guys. I like to see as many PgMP as I can. So I don't need anything other than one more PgMP from you or PfMP. That's it. If you can help me with that, I don't care if you get PgMP or not. So in this process, you will get PgMP anyway. So Vincy, I have lots of questions for you, and I will be asking them. And the people on the call, you have opportunity to put your questions, as many questions as you can. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And we do have a hard stop, 45 minutes from now. And but let's see if Vincy has to drop out. I will try to answer some of the questions with PgMP specific or PfMP specific. And but we'll try to get as many questions as we can. And I do have a PDU code approved for this one, and I will be sharing sometime in between. And the people watching now or people watching the video later on, they will be able to take the note of the PDU code, so you can claim one PDU from this webinar. Okay. So Vincy, ready for the questions?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So
what you got?
Yeah. So what are the complexities? You have been program manager for some time now. So what are the complexities a program manager has to undergo when setting up a program culture, especially in your kind of an organization?
So first of all, we need to understand, what do you mean by culture, right? If you just go ahead and Google, culture, I actually pulled up the definition here so that I can quote from Google so I don't get it incorrectly. The second definition comes out as the customs, art, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. And the sub definition is that the attitudes and the behaviors and characteristics of a particular social group. So focusing on that, it's more like, as I was focusing more on the attitudes and behaviors of the group, so to speak. So Dharam, your question was asking in regards to how do you set up this program culture? So in my work, what I do is R&D, as I mentioned. And in R&D, we coordinate with the customer, who usually provides certain specifications of products that they want us to deliver. And we go back and forth with our business unit manager, who is also, I think, known as an account manager, to create the commercial contract and statements of work and things like that. So once that's established, a program team is assigned to work on the program. So in terms of setting up the culture, it's super important to, first of all, know who your program team is. I have an example from a recent program that was just started a couple months ago, actually. So I have a team in Florida. I have a team here in USA. I have a team here in California that we're collaborating with, and the customer is also in the same time zone as I am in, here on the West Coast. However, there's people in multi-locations all over the US, And they're people that, even though they're in the same organization as I am at, they're in a different field and also in a different expertise than I am at. You can consider them subject matter experts in their field. They're just located all over the place. Most of them I've never worked with before. So what I did was, first of all, create our goals, like what is it that we're trying to accomplish, and get everybody aligned on the goals first. Then afterwards, I had to talk to each of their managers to make sure that, hey, I want to confirm this person working on this project. This is what it looks like from a high level. What do you think? Can your staff support? And usually the manager will say yes or no, or we'll negotiate or something like that. So in terms of establishing culture after that, I think a lot of it has to go with the relationship that you as a program manager can create with your team. Because these people were brand new, and especially given this current COVID timeframe, it's not like I can just go drop by their desk and say, hi, I'm Vincy, nice to meet you. So what I ended up doing recently was just setting up one-on-one meetings with especially the technical owner, and then some of the other more senior SMEs on the project. I set up one-on-one, just an hour with them. But before I did that, I went ahead and created some project documents that captures, hey, what is the scope of, what is it that we're trying to deliver? This is my vision for how we're gonna get to that goal. What do you think? Do you think that we should go this way or maybe that way? Is this your expectation? Are we aligned on the same page? I mean, and so first of all, that's like the background of the project. Then later on, I would ask the different people, so how do you want to be communicated to? Do you like text messaging? Do you like emails? Would you prefer phone calls? Do you like it when I schedule a meeting or just chat with you? We use Microsoft Teams here at Jabil, so should I just send you a chat on Teams and then, you know, do that? So in terms of setting up the culture, I think those one-on-one conversations really helped, because it gave them, you know, an opportunity to get to know who I am, like what I do, and especially when I created those documents for what I understood about the project and the program that we're going to be running. They said, they probably looked at it and said, wow, this is really detailed. I see the scope. I see how we're going to control the scope. If we need to make changes, what are we going to do? I had communication plan in there. I had quality. I had scope control, and different things. So I had all of those. And because I think they saw how organized everything was, they're like, oh, okay, then the program manager's got my back. I can just do my technical thing. I don't have to worry about her job. Therefore, I can just go ahead and, you know, talk to her about, you know, my expertise and maybe my concerns. So they would bring up to me, hey, you know, if we're going to be able to hit this requirement or this target, then we really need to know XYZ to be able to do that. Then it's all a matter of communication and conversation from there. So that's how I set up that program's culture. So nowadays, it's just more weekly meetings and the incoming information from the customer. We address them, and the team, because they're so senior, they're pretty much, they run themselves in terms of their technical tasks that needs to be done.
Right. Perfect. I'm sure people watching you at the moment, they're learning a lot from this conversation, and they will see how they can improve their team engagement. It's all about team engagement and building trust with each other. Once you have the trust, people support you even when the program is not doing as well as they're expecting. So they put their hard yards. If you don't have a relationship, they're trying to find excuses and run away from you. Great, good job, Vincy. Good job. All right, so I have another question for you. So especially people wanted to grow into the program manager role. So let's say you are a project manager, or you have conducted in a small to medium size of a project or small programs, and you wanted to become program manager. So what are the skills required to be competent program manager? What do you think from your point of view?
So from a project manager going to a program manager, and then also you use the word competent. So I'm going to break down the question into two parts, and we'll address each part separately. So I think competence, you really have to understand like where that comes from and what that means first. If you look up the definition in Google, competent means acceptable and satisfactory, though not outstanding. In my personal opinion, competence, it's never enough. I'm always striving for excellence. I want to be the best. I want to provide my customers, whether they're internal to the company or external to the company, the best level of customer service that I can for them. Whatever I can to provide value and to make their life easier, I will try to do for them. So in that way, competence is, as I said, it's not enough. However, I do know that in many of our certifications, when we get our sheet that says we have passed the exam, they always there's always a sentence that talks about the exam test for competency. And Dharam, you probably know more about this, and you can talk more about this in terms of what having a certification means. Because in what my experience has been is that the PMI test practitioners for competence in their field.
Yeah.
Dharam, you have anything to say about that before I address the?
Yeah. So PMI testing. Of course, they're trying to figure out how much you know from the book. Look, PMI is trying to bring standardizing the project and program management. So the way people are doing project program management is different. And what PMI testing, how much you've learned from the book. Whether it's going to make you the best program manager or not, I don't know. But you're going to learn the better way of doing things. Okay, and that whether this is making you a competent or not, that's a different story. But you will learn how to do your job even better. Okay, so but the test result, when you see actually before the new results they have at the moment, like target, above target, and below target and need improvement, they had a different definition. I think that they were calling competent and above no, something else. Let's not worry about that. So they are of course checking your capabilities and how you do your job, how much you have learned from PMI book, and how well you will be doing your job. This is from my point of view.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of like PgMP and certification for competence, I think that's what the PMI is targeting, kind of setting a baseline so that everybody understands that these are core skills that we as practitioners have been tested for and have passed. So therefore, we can demonstrate that we understand and how to know these skills. But your more important question is, like, what are the skills next to really become transition from project manager to program manager? And I believe it's a very interesting question. And in my opinion, what I would say is that what really separates the project manager from program manager is that program manager talks about vision. Vision as in like, where is our goal? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Because program, as you know, is the conglomerate of different projects run together so that we can achieve, a goal that is not possible if they're managed separately. So given this as a program manager, I believe it's super important to have your eye on that particular vision.
So what are the things? So as a project manager, who have been running the projects, now becoming program manager, do you think by simple training will help them, or they have to do something else outside of the, so let's say, running larger program or vision creating? What do you think that their path should be? Like, if I ask somebody as a project manager, what can you suggest them? What they just go and read the PMP book and standard, or something else?
Well, no, I think that practical experience is always beneficial, right? Because you have, even in the certification, you have to be able to demonstrate that you've done program management for a certain period of time before you're even allowed to apply for the certification, the PgMP, from a PMP perspective. So it's important to focus on, yes, the technical skills to be able to get there. In my experience, as a project manager, I think you figure out really quickly that communication is a super key skill to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve and to influence people to be able to get the result that you need to get. So as a program manager, even more so, because you're dealing with more components, more people, more parts. So having the vision and also having the communication and developing your communication skills further is helpful. I really appreciate what the PMI does in terms of the PgMP, because if you look at the guidebook in terms of the PgMP, you get very clear about what the best practice or industry or PMI wants to see in the program manager. So the definitions and the experiences, it's not like you're a project manager and you're running a larger project and all of a sudden you're a program manager. That's not exactly how it goes. Like your target of focus and what you do as a program manager is slightly different than what you do from a project manager. Program manager, you're coordinating the individual components inside of your project, and you're looking at balancing out risk and balancing out resources to best be able to level the performance on your overall program via dialing the certain knobs on your projects in conjunction with your project managers. So it's a little bit more complex, I would say. But I think every project manager starts with a small project first, and then the project gets larger and larger in scope, and pretty soon some of them naturally evolve to become programs because they start growing so big. And other ones might be, oh, you've managed this type of project before, managed this type of project. Okay, we're going to put you, so that you're managing these types of projects together, and then you have program manager.
Perfect. Good. So, and other than that, you need to be benefit centric, keeping your stakeholder informed, making sure you have right governance for these are a few other things you need to learn. And sometimes it's good to read books as well, while practical knowledge is important. Perfect. Thanks, Vincent. Thank you. So guys, if you have any other questions in between, if you feel that you want to talk about anything specific that Vincy is talking about, anything to do with the PgMP or anything else, please feel free to put your questions. And I will take your question as and when the right time comes. So Vincy, I have other question for you. Next question for you. How can a program manager handle ambiguity? Because we talk about program has lots of uncertainty, ambiguity when we start. So how as a program manager you can handle the ambiguity and uncertainty when dealing with multiple stakeholders, and especially when they have different requirements, they're coming from different part of the organization. How do you bring them on the same page?
So I rely a lot on documentation, because with documentation, at least you have, hey, look, this is what we've written down. Is this the goal that we're going across? Dharam, do you agree? Is this where we're going to be going? What about you, Sam? How about you? This is what Dharam has agreed to? Sam, okay, you're agreed. No, we're not. Then we can facilitate some conversations. I believe that as program managers, we're often more like mediators of conversation. We aggregate a lot of information together, might generate and distill some of the information and present it back to our sponsors to say, hey, is this what you mean? Programs are run in such uncertainty all the time that it's so important to be able to pivot and to adjust to your stakeholders' needs and the changing needs of the environment. Sometimes new legislation is passed or something like that, and then your program no longer becomes relevant because something has happened. And so it's so important that changes all the time. And as I mentioned, one of the biggest tools I use to document that you said this at this time, you said this at this time, get your approvals, here's your signature, to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So you're talking about lots of documentation, lots of logs, and scope statement is clearly everybody is signing on that document. Yeah, but if they're still not agreeing, they are very, my requirement has to be there. What do you do? Anything else can you do?
Frequently I've always had the luck maybe to be able to balance everybody's needs, because it's always like a discussion and a trade-off, right? I think you've heard the story of Sam says that he needs a bunch of oranges, and then Sue says that they need a bunch of oranges too. But if you dig in, Sam only wants the orange peel, whereas Sue wants the inside. So they're able to use the same batch of oranges and then use it in a different way. So obviously this is not, I might be oversimplifying it, but when you talk to your various different sponsors, stakeholders, it's important to really understand why they think that this particular requirement is necessary. And if you keep asking them why and why and why, maybe you can distill it down to the nitty-gritty, and maybe some kind of feature is required, or some kind of requirement is going to be coming out from the from, I don't know, somewhere that you have to implement.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So my next question for you, and this is to do with the kind of work you're doing, product-centric versus consumer-centric. So what kind of approach can a program manager take to handle effectively, especially when you talk about product-centric work versus consumer-centric, in terms of benefit and outcomes? Benefit and outcomes.
Okay, so I think it's important to answer, break down the question first. What I understand to be product-centric is more when you are trying to develop some kind of widget. Like I work on a lot of product-centric programs. We're trying to develop the next generation widget. It has this particular specification and has this particular thing, and we're working to release 10,000 of them into the world. So that's product-centric. And whereas something that's consumer-centric might be more of what Dharam does in vCareProjectManagement, for example, then he provides a service that develops a relationship with us as the consumers, that over time, vCare goes with us, trains us towards, or hopefully in the future, a PfMP or something like that. So it's important to delineate what's what. So your question was in terms of how do we handle effectively or balancing product-centric versus consumer-centric? I'll talk about my own experiences in R&D and with the customers that I work with. I take kind of a blended approach in how I treat the projects. So it's true that we are developing product that goes out the door. However, we look at it from what's going to be best for the company in the future, our customers, what's going to be best for the future of the product. And in the sense, we are providing a more like consumer type of mentality into serving them and providing value. We have an example of a customer with a medical product actually, that they came and did a tour in our R&D lab, and they said, hey, look at this particular technology that you guys have in-house. And then we said, oh, I think that could actually be applied to your particular product. If you made some changes this way and that way, then your product could be even more reliable. They said, So they came to us and they said, we heard what you said during our tour, and we want you to run some feasibility studies. So my team was able to run a feasibility study with them. And then now we have not now actually, last year, 2 years ago, we have working prototypes with them. And they're piloting right now, testing inside of the FDA to make sure that they get all the certifications before they launch into production. Because we were always looking at it, what's best for the product, what's best for the consumer, what's best for what's going to generate the most value. The customer got a cheaper product that was easier to manufacture, and then it's a win-win. So there's been many examples of this particular customer as well, trusting us to take them onto, like, make suggestions to them. And we always want to develop that type of relationship with the customer where, oh, because we've done a good job on our particular thing, when they ask us, hey, do you have any recommendations to make this smaller, more efficient, cheaper, whatever it is, then we can come back and say, what about this and what about this? So in that sense, that is a consumer-centric type of mentality.
Great. Good. Lot to learn from this discussion, Vincy. This is one benefit I get running the webinars. Of course, you learn from me in the whole process. Now my time to learn from you. All right. I have another question for you. Okay. So in the industrial reality, do organizations differentiate and assign appropriate roles and responsibilities for program manager, project manager? If yes, elaborate. No, what are your thoughts on it? So, you know, I've noticed that not every organization has a role as a program manager. They, even if you're running program, they still call you project manager. So what's the thought on this?
So the short answer is probably no. Most organizations that I know don't know the difference between program manager and a project manager. People always ask me, what's the difference? You're a project manager, you're a program manager, like, you know. So they assume that maybe program managers, you're just running a bigger project, so therefore they call you a program manager. I think that for an organization to be able to clearly distinguish what's the difference between a program manager and a project manager is how mature they are in terms of where they are in their development cycle. We talk about maturity even in the PMP about organizations. So the PgMP is no different when we're studying for the exam. So the more mature organization is in their project management, so to speak, guidance, then they can clearly assign roles. But I mean, anybody with practical experience who've actually worked in a job role, you'll actually know that when you go to apply for a job, for example, there's a job description and it says, hey, look, you're expected to do XYZ, you know, during ABC times. But when you actually go into the role, it might be a little bit different than what was actually written on paper. So in project management, program management, I find that portion to be the same. Sometimes you're utilizing your project management skills, other times you're utilizing your program management skills. Sometimes the people from the strategic PMO, they might ask you, hey, like, what should I do about governance? And they might even come to you as a PgMP or PfMP to be able to ask those questions and give them guidance and recommendations on what they can do. So we wear many hats. So as Dharam was saying, that's so important to brush up on our skills and brush up on our technical skills inside of the project management practitioner level.
Yeah, and that's why many people are confused whether they are ready for PgMP or not, because the title is project manager, and they don't know the program. PgMP is program management, and they ask me questions. Dharam, I'm a project manager. I don't know how to justify the eligibility, so I have to spend some time with them to explain. It's not about the title given to you by the organization. It is about the job you have done. So you may be running programs. So that's where we dig into what work he or she has done in the past 15 years. And then we'll figure out, oh, hang on, this project, this actually the project they're calling project, actually that was a program. Because you have multiple sub-projects, which can be a project. And this is big enough, and the multiple stream going on, you manage interdependency. Yeah, while they're calling you project manager, but the project actually program. So there you go. You have enough experience to be called go for PgMP. So if anybody in doubt about that, whether they can go for PgMP or not, or another question, I think Vincy, you do get that question. can people go directly from not having even PMP to PgMP? I think a couple of friends you referred me, they are not even PMP, but they want to do PMP or PgMP. Then you say, why don't you do PgMP directly? So that's another thing people don't know about. So if you have any doubts about that, yeah, feel free to book some time with me, and I will be more than happy to make sure you're very clear about your eligibility part.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Dharam, because there are people that I know who have been working in the industry in roles similar to mine, or even more complex than mine, in my opinion, that don't necessarily have a PMP experience or PMP in their title. So after going through Dharam's class, I found out that you can actually get your PgMP certification instead of having to go through PMP first and get your PgMP. So had I known that, then I would have actually pushed many of my peers to not get the PMP and just go directly to the PgMP certification instead. So if that applies to you and you have a lot of project management experience, or yeah, definitely reach out to Dharam to see if it's a good fit. I think you can save yourself a lot of time.
Yeah, thank you. Let me tell you the code for PDU claim. As I said, you can claim one PDU from this program, and I will actually, let me put that on chat as well. It's already there. I just have to press the button. You will see on the chat the PDU codes qualifier. PDU codes identifier. You can note down PM, P for Peter, M for Mary, EXP dash VL dash 01, and PDU claim code 3998. The number 3998. Then B for boy, number 2, S for Sam, N for Nelly, number 4, M for Monday. So let me repeat. Course identifier PMEXP, P for Peter, dash or hyphen, VL dash 01. PDU claim code 3998. B for boy, number 2, SN 4M, and for Mary. All right, so this is the code you can use to claim one PDU. People on the call or people who are watching video as well. So this code will be available for 1 year from today's date. So if you're watching beyond that time, you will not be able to claim. Anyway, so this is something I wanted to pass. Vincy, I do have a question from Carl. He's asking, how have you dealt with the times where two equally important stakeholders having conflicting requirements or the goals, vision, and the team is between the two? For example, the quality organization with the conflicting requirement with the product team. So two equally important stakeholders, and they have their conflicting requirements.
Honestly, I'm not sure I've ever had that before. Perhaps, Carl, you can provide a little bit more context. In my experience, the quality team always wants to guarantee a particular level of quality, and that is driven almost all the time from the product team and what the product team requires. So it's very infrequent that there would be a conflict between the two. If anything, those two departments support each other the best.
Yeah, so I mean, in this situation, when two equally important stakeholders, and they're both equal, their requirements are a little bit conflicting. So as you said, maybe one person looking for the appeal and one person looking for, so finding the commonality first and trying to bring on the same page. And you need to identify, you need to tell them the vision of the program as well. At the same, they have to, because you have limited time, limited money, and while they have equal important requirement, but you may or may not be able to handle that in your current product.
So I can't think of a situation where we have to, so we in manufacturing, we go by phases, and usually there's some kind of prototype phase, and there's something called EVT, and then DVT, PVT, and then there's the production. In each of these phases, the product gets to be more and more mature as we go on. And inside, there's usually some kind of gate. The proto has to meet certain requirements before you can go into EVT build, which is the engineering validation build. So during that transition, sometimes quality will say, you haven't reached this particular gate, so you cannot pass. But in order to move the program forward, you need to be able to build more product to prove that you fixed the particular issue so that you can meet. So I'm not sure if that answers Carl's question, but it's always a conversation in terms of trade-offs, like, hey, I can't meet the quality target now, but here are the steps that we are taking. Can we get a pass for it for now? And this is, and within a week or two, when we have more samples, we can be able to run it through your testing again, see if it passes your testing now, or does this meet your requirement now?
Good, thank you. So I have another question. I'm getting feedback as well from Eco coming. So what kind of thought process do program managers need to develop for the organization growth? As a program manager, you need to contribute. What's your thought process in order to grow your organization?
Growing the organization in terms of the program management organization, or growing?
No, you are contributing. You are contributing to the growth of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thinking? How can you be a leader in assisting the organization growth? Well, you're not a leader, but yeah, in a way you're a leader, but you're contributing by providing a product or service.
Right. So I always take a very customer-centric approach to see what is it that, is there a problem for us to solve? Is there a target that we're trying to hit? And then provide the options for the final customer, who might be internal or whoever. So a lot of the times engineering teams were presented with some type of problem. Then we try to provide management with options to select, this is your option A, option B, option C, this is the budget and time for each. So in that way, as program managers, I'm aggregating the information from my team to be able to present options for management to decide. And I believe that we, as program managers, can provide immense value in the sense that we have such good communication skills to be able to present the information effectively for management to make decisions.
Right, thank you. I have a question from one of my previous students. How the stakeholder management has changed over the last 6 months, and is there any pattern you see? Anything has changed in last 6 months?
Yeah. I have such a strong response because Dharam knows this from when I took the course with him. I tend to try to find people's favorite food or snack, and I always bring my favorite, their favorite food or snack to them, and I say, hey, this needs to be done. Here's your favorite snack, and they're like, okay. I can't do that anymore when everything's web-based. I'm not, well, I won't say I'm not allowed, but currently our company is trying to keep our employees safe. So they say that people who don't need to touch parts for manufacturing, they request that we please stay at home until phase 2 of COVID shelter in place, so that they can slowly welcome people back. So I don't have the ability to be able to bribe people with snacks on the way.
So how do you motivate your team now?
I know it's I mean, I have to do it through memes and through humor, and it's a lot of work. Before, like a candy bar, it's like $1 for good.
Yeah, I know. In the course, you have been talking about, bringing donuts and candy bars. Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, to translate it into like not so humorous way. It's really important to get to know your team members, to develop your personal skills with them, to have some kind of relationship. If you have a good relationship with your team, then it's really then it's much easier to get tasks done. I actually have an example from one of our team members recently. Because we've been under the gun to get parts out the door, this particular team member stayed really late for quite a few nights. I didn't ask him to do so, but he did. And at some point I got worried about him. And so we had a one-on-one conversation, and I told him, hey, look, it's true that we are under the gun, but I don't want you to compromise your focus and your attention and your health to try to get these parts out the door. If we have to negotiate with the customer for something, then let's do that. And he really appreciated that I reached out to him as a program manager, specifically to him, to talk about his involvement on the project. And, it led to a better relationship and more candid speaking between the two of us, rather than me just issuing him a task to do.
Exactly. And Vincy, that's true. And sometimes it's simple listening to the person. The person is going through some difficult thing. This person working last 2 nights together and whole day, whole night. Simple talking to the person can change. And I give my example when I was working for HP in Australia, and one of my team member, my support team was in Manila in Philippines, and he was a great guy to work with. And suddenly his productivity was going downward. And I asked him, what's going on? Can I help you with something? Initially, he actually literally crying on the phone. Dharam, I am at the verge of losing my family. I don't get to see my family for many, many days. I'm almost in 2 shifts every day, and sometimes I have to do 3rd shift as well. So it's a kind of killing me and my family system. So I said, look, I can't do much about what's going on with you, but let me talk to my manager. What can we do? Because I was running very important program for HP at the time. So I talked to manager. He said, okay, I have to make sure all these people are in our time zone and they are working only for us. So that's the one thing. But just because I talked to him, listened to him, when I was in trouble, my program was in trouble. He said, Dharam, don't worry. I will not leave you until this thing is done. So you build rapport with them, and that rapport goes for long, long time. It's a great question. Thank you. All right, so let me take a couple more questions from my list. Vincy, what are the early warning signs indicating the failure of the program? So we do get signs that's about to die. This is not going to give us benefit, expected benefit. So can a program manager identify and prevent such events from occurring?
Ooh, this is a really good question. My team is really sneaky, and I say sneaky in a really endearing way. My early signs is when they don't tell me what's going on. So usually I'm chatting with them and just checking in to see, hey, how are you doing? If I don't hear from them, it can mean 2 things. It can mean something, or it can be that they're super busy, or something has catastrophically gone wrong and they're trying to do a lot of CYA. Because I know my own team and human nature, when we do something, I'm always very positive with my team. So when they tell me, hey, Vincy, this is done and this is done, and I'm like, yes, good job, and I compliment the team. So that's super easy. But when something goes wrong and we're building parts or there's mistakes, it's really easy to be like, oh no, I really screwed this up, and let me see if I can fix it before I tell the program manager what's going on. So yeah, those are the early warning signs for my particular team when things are going wrong, when I don't hear from them, or when I ping them and they don't answer me. Get very, very suspicious.
And actually, Vincy, I remember when my kids were young, very young, and when I don't hear any noise,
oh yes,
very quiet. It's very quiet. You know something is going on. So you go there in the room, and I find that the books on the floor, all the parts are down, and maybe some pages are out. So when they're doing something not right, they will be quiet.
Right.
So yes, you're
But
probably right.
yeah.
That's how the early signs you probably get.
Isn't that what they say? Like there's an internet meme about that. Silence is golden unless you have children or puppies. And silence is not a good sign.
Exactly. Good. So yeah, so and as a part of the risk management, you can identify these as trigger signs. I don't know. All right, I have another question for you, Vincy. How did management react to change in the business case? If they want to change or we want to change the business case, can we do that?
Yes, actually, change is possible. Change is a normal, actually, to be expected inside of a program. So changing a business case sometimes is important because maybe the program strategy or the corporate strategy is no longer aligned with your business case, and then it needs to be changed. So in that circumstance, sometimes when changes happen, your program might be affected positively or negatively. Positively in the sense that, hey, we decided you're very important. We're going to give you more resources, more time to do this other thing that we need you to do on top of what you're doing to expand your current engagement. Or at other times, it's like, hey, we're going to steer the corporate strategy away from what you're doing right now, and we need to shut down your program. So in my experience with the programs that I run, it's really difficult to shut down some of the programs I run. These are customer developments that we have paid for. So it's almost impossible to shut down a particular engagement unless they say that, we're no longer interested in partnering with you. We're going to withdraw our engagement. Because the corporate, from our side at Jabil, they might decide that they want to develop the optics capability at Jabil, for example. So they want lots of customers who are doing various different camera modules in different ways, or projector modules or something like that. So they want lots of customers and lots of variety inside of this particular optics domain or optics umbrella. However, even if they steer away from optics, it's not like we can cancel some of the optics programs that we have now. Maybe in the future, after we have developed something into production, we can get away from it, but we can't midstream decided to eject.
Good. Thank you. Vincy, I have lots of questions, but I don't think we'll have time to go all of them. And anything else you'd like to share with the people on the phone or on the call? Anything else? I think you have been sharing and you have been wonderful in sharing your experience. I think a lot of people have learned from your experience, and I'm sure they will appreciate your work. And to continue this journey, I will be inviting my next guest will be coming, and she's coming from Mexico, and her name is Emma Nehela, and she's a Spanish-speaking lady. She was not very sure earlier when started, but when she passed the exam, she was literally crying. Dharam, I'm crying. So why are you crying? I passed the exam. Okay, that's you should be happy. Yeah, and I passed with above target. Okay, I'm more crying. Okay, so that's what she. So she will be explaining what was the journey all about, plus lots of other questions. So I'm sure you're going to learn from that as well. So thanks everyone for continuing to joining these programs and watching these videos. And once again, thank you, Vincy, for sharing and answering my questions, answering the question from the audience, and anything else you have to say, or people who wanted to learn from me or from my program, you always have the opportunity to book a meeting with me. Even if you don't join my program, doesn't matter. Talking with me, maybe and just you have nobody else to talk, you can always call me. I'm not free, but yes, if you book my time, that is your time.
Dharam gets lonely, you should definitely call him.
All right. Okay, Vincy, anything else? Otherwise, from us, thank you very much for sharing. It was really informative. and I'm getting lots of thank yous from on the questions chat.
Yeah, so feel free to, if you have questions on LinkedIn about, hardware or R&D or program management, or how to bridge the gap between PMP, PgMP, I am happy to share my experiences.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Bye.
afternoon.
Bye. Yes, Shailesh, I've moved to United States. I didn't realize that you know. Anyway, we can talk sometime.